And I'm doing that right now when I'm with this game that I'm working on. And like I get these points, and from the developer, right, who's telling the story, I get is so let's talk about so game development, right? So it's, I mean, it's I've been working like on basis with the person who's is developing a game, his own independent game on Patreon. And so I decided to volunteer, and I looked because I thought right at the start this could be something that's worthwhile. And
so is it his game and you're helping with the writing?
Yeah, so I'm co-writing it, right? Cool. So like last week was a really hard week, and the week before, basically, I think it was last week or the week before, of writing. 3 days of just boom writing. So I write about.
Did he present the concept?
19,000 words. Yeah, it's his story. He just gets me the points, and I write the points down.
And then you do your take on it.
Yeah, he does the outline for what's going to happen. He'll go, because I had to actually go back and tell him how to do it backwards as well. Because so like if you're like if you're a new writer, like if you have a story, doesn't mean that you know how to tell the story, right? Because unless you've been taught how to do it, and not everybody has been taught how to do it. So I latched onto this guy because I thought there was something that was worthy of being told with my help.
So you thought your mentorism was valuable for him and also good for you, teamwork. So you make something good together.
To learn how it works, right? How game development works. That's the whole reason. It was like, okay, if I can work with this and mentor him. At first, I was just going to edit, and then it was like we could. Then he brought me on as to co-write, and then
it's better bouncing the ball between each other of how to improve it. I imagine if he was open for it, that's
what it came down to.
A better system.
Because I was coming on board as an editor, I was like, what would I not want somebody to do with me, right? Or what would I want someone to do with me as a writer? Yeah. So role reversal is like, I don't want somebody telling me how to write my story without showing me how
or why, without showing why.
Yeah. And why this needs to happen here and why that needs to happen there. Because I mean, the last release was.
How much of it did you change? Have you had a big change that you implemented? Where you said this point's not good, but the rest of it's good. If you took that out, it's better. You haven't done that?
I don't change plots. It's not my place there to change a story. So as an editor, my place is there for to come in and
how
say
you get through it.
How to get through this, what words you can use, how to use conversations, how to use dialogue, why dialogue's used. And then he basically got me by saying, this is the bones of it. Now put some flesh on it. And then I started putting meat on it, and skin, and the hair, so on. It's building this.
So how would you summarize the story as like you being introduced to us, and like what's the concept?
It's a horror.
A horror?
Yeah, it's about it's a horror story, ghost horror story about corruption. And a family and corruption. So, it was quite interesting. So I was like, yeah, this is kind of interesting. I've been playing these games. I don't know how these games work. I'd like to learn. I'd like to be able to say, I know how this works, dude.
So you're watching the programming bits of it as well? You're being part of that?
I'm looking at the coding. I'm writing the coding. I'm writing the text forms. I'm using Adam.
What's he using it to program?
Ramping. It's a Rampy, and he's doing 3D DAS. Is it 3D DAS or whatever?
Oh, I haven't heard of Rampy. How do you spell it?
No, it's DAS 3D. RENPY.
I haven't heard that one. Oh, yeah, visual novel. Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, so it's like Rampy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so, it looks quite cool. Yeah.
Yeah, the setup's pretty cool. I mean, so he's.
It's very much art narrative driven. So it doesn't tell you much about the engine, but if it's easy to use, that's probably a good thing.
Well, you can. I mean, it's a game. It's a game, right? So you can use stuff like role playing game maker, RPG, whatever they call it. You can use Unity. I've seen all these other ones that use that. So you can go from basically having comic strips, right, to actually having 3D animation, and it's all depends on the what is it called, the skill of the person, of the developer, right, the one who's done the story, who's doing the artwork for it. So I don't have to do that, but then there who does
often,
the coding.
I mean, like if it's a good system, then presumably if you're an artist and writer mainly, like it probably does a lot of the work. It's probably designed to be really intuitive with that.
Yeah.
So it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty easy thing to. I mean, not pretty easy. It's the way when I look at it,
it's designed for what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and I've learned how codes work simplicity. Not too much. I haven't learned enough, but I've just learned enough how to.
Is it like the flow chart of the conversation and what?
Yeah, how the codes work. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know how to code it, but that's what it's all there for. But somebody else would do. And then also there's like where you can use music, you can use voiceovers. I mean, there's so much things you can do with this stuff, and then there's animation side of things, right? You can animate these there's 3D images, that you've created, just what is it called? Where you're like frames per second, right? So there's like 12 frames per second, and you end up like, if you're using cartoons or animations. But then if you go into CGI, CGI if you're doing 60 frames. So there's some really fantastic things that I've seen people do with these games that they've worked on themselves.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're telling their story, and then you can access it and experience it. So it's a good thing to be able to get that finished in whatever regard.
And I'm an advocate of of people doing their thing. I think independent creators should be able to make a living off it, and I think but I mean, there are those people who take people for rides. Game people. They get their money and then they don't deliver on time, or they delay. And I've seen people who haven't done a work for a year, right? But they still get their monthly, thousands on friggin' of people supporting them, whatever, every month. And I'm like, you're just taking people for a ride, and those people just are waiting, and the guys basically decide, yeah, I know I'm gonna juice this out, because as soon as I finish the game, right, the money's going to stop. And I think those kinds of people don't have any other ideas for the next thing, and I think they just got the one thing and they're trying to make more of it. But there are these really talented
if they don't finish it, then they probably don't even have the one thing. they've got half of a thing.
Yeah, and I feel sorry for people to actually support those guys that don't support people who actually deliver every month.
Well, I guess everyone's got a choice, haven't they?
Yeah, and I think it's ingenious for people to do that, but I also think it actually lets the actual creators who actually work hard down financially, because it means like these guys are really working themselves. And if you're a later month, people take their money away, all right, that month, or they come back and they get that, because the way Patreon works is they get paid out monthly. So you could basically cancel your halfway through the month after it's been released or something like that. It's kind of weird, and I'm not sure if they can how they work it. Try to cheat.
I guess half the problem or the challenge with Patreon is like you got to get people behind you, like the marketing aspect. Like they're probably better marketers than they are actually of programming and making things.
Yeah, and
which is a talent. They can probably market that somewhere. Yeah, like
I'm kind of partly marketing guy. I'm the mouthpiece of this bloody this event, and so but that's a like you said, it's a job and a half itself.
It takes so much time. Anyone who's good at it, like, has their videos and they go, my video is about creating this and I'm teaching you stuff, and they go, all the marketing bits I do and all the putting this in, that takes so much. The other half of my time I'm spent doing this, and I get this much time with my family. And so
I don't even. I want somebody else to come and take this marketing side of things away from me. So next year we bring in other people. Yeah, we're bringing more people in next year to do it, because I'm like, it's 3 years in a row, so I'm okay. I've been trying to find out who's the right persons to come on and start working on this with us. So hopefully next year we'll get about three or four more people come on board. and take Plunge over to take us to the next step, which I'm happy for, and I think it's going to be a good thing. Now, so I think Patreon takes about 30%, if I remember right.
They take their bite, all right. Yeah.
Yeah, they take a huge proportion. So I think so. A lot of people who can afford to set up websites where you can pay them, and I think it's cool that, I mean, if you can build up a following and create a website to send to people where they can directly pay you, and you can send them a code unique to themselves. Say, yes, you can download this. Now you've got this. I think that's a cool way to do things as well, because I think I'm interested in that as well. I've been thinking about, like, I know that Horizon Zone Comics sells their digital comics like that way, as well as physical comics of the subscription base. So I've been thinking, like, well, we could somehow do that with comics ourselves, a digital version or actual physical version, so you could sell, directly to the customer.
I guess the thing with digital version is it doesn't have an outlay, and so it exists digitally. Like if you shift it to someone as an email or whatever, or a file on a website, then it doesn't cost you a bean. You don't have to pay postage. You don't have to mess around. It's having the repeat customers is the thing, and I guess why Patreon can have high fees is, or not high fee. Well, I guess they do have high fees. Is because you're getting free money. If someone was giving me $100 a month, and it's free money, well, thank you guys. Would I care if to do that Patreon takes $30 of it? Because I never had that money to begin with. Like,
but so I think that the other thing is, like, you could.
I don't think it's good, but like, I mean, I can see the reasoning behind it. It was free money. Like, it doesn't matter, like, would you get it otherwise? Probably not.
It's like YouTube, right? I mean, it's just a hosting site right now. I mean, so that's what Patreon is, but they make their rules, and they tighten their rules every couple of months. So, so it's gone from being somewhere we could crowdfund yourself to a nice, be a creative, independent creator, to where they make money off you, right?
But then I guess, like, all these times as a struggling business, like they're succeeding as businesses. Like, they don't actually care about the creative person; they care about making the money off the creative person or the popular person.
Which
like,
is kind
even
of weird how
trade me's fees at the moment, and like the way that operates, like, it's gone.
Have they changed trade me's fees?
Well, it's not been great for a while, and they don't send payment. They try and encourage you to do all these things, and I think they charge you a fee on the postage as well, and things like that. So that they've gone, like, it's not like the old days. I mean, in theory, it used to operate like more or less for free, and it can do that to a certain measure, and it still has ads, but it's not a high business return model.
Right. So
and
now you're like,
they're creamy money. They're a money-making machine.
That is true. But I mean, like, you're right, because in the old days when we first started, right?
It was hardly anything.
And then they started for $700 million to Aussie, was it?
Because someone saw that there was a lot of money to be made.
Yeah.
But the true thing that would be good in any of these aspects where you look at something like that and go, that's, for the people who are trying to do selling stuff that's not great, is what I'd like to do. And I don't know if anyone ever watches this and wants to help out. Like, I'd love to make a collector's trade me. We've got the people together. We've got the people who would be the customers. Like, build a framework and make, like, fairer rules. Make, like, smaller overheads and things, and put in the things that are missing from the other one. I would love to do that. I'd put some money into that in time. That's something
that I someone to build a code for it, right?
Yeah.
I remember coming up with that, something similar to that, way back in 2010 when I was trying to put together Comic Trade website, which was comictrade.co.nz. Which hasn't existed for years, right? And so I spent about 44K on it, and I was supposed to only spend like about 1,800, and it just kept going bigger and bigger. I got duped, basically, I'd say, because I was bringing in merchant. But then again, when I look at it, it had to come into merchant banking elements to it, and all the other things had to come in. And it's like, okay, no, I wasn't doing.
But like you say, you've got a network of creative people who are learning and working in these areas. Like, we find the right people, you totally can put it together. I mean, coming up with the system, the layout, the tools, the way it sorts, the way it presents, are things we can do. We can think of ways that, Trade Me sucks because it's only got 3 sections of different comics, and there's hundreds. because they don't really care about that. They look at their cars and you got your Nissans and Fords, like how can you sort and make that more streamlined for people who are looking for a particular comic? How can you present that better? And so normal people can do that, and design people can do that, design students could do that, people who are interested in the field, in all the different collecting fields.
Well, the cool thing is, like I said, there are people in our community that can do that. The thing is that we're ideas people, right? Me and you, because we're in the in this business of marketing and ideas, and we don't kind of have the skill base for that, and so often we're thinking about what's needed and what is needed and how to do it, but we don't know who to do it with or who's available to do it.
Well, yeah, but you just got to put an idea out there and share it. I mean, it doesn't really matter if we did it, but potentially it could be a successful idea, and it would be really cool for the collectors community if there was a better space for that. It'd be cooler to sell, it'd be cooler to buy, it'd be cooler to experience. And potentially, as modeled by Trade Me and other things, if you can take the clients off there and it's profiting plenty, then there's every reason why that would be a profitable concept too. Yeah.
Well, I think you got to look at like how Trade Me, like how they well, it's basically just a website, isn't it, at the end of the day?
No, yeah, but there's engines like eBay and Trade Me are similar. Like there's engines that make a basic thing. The trick would be to make one that's tailored to be specialized to your niche interest, and that's focusing less on the money and going, okay, let's just make a new product that competes on every level, and go, hey, let's just focus on something we're passionate about. Let's get other people who are passionate about the different areas to tell us how that would look really cool for them, what kind of thing, like little focuses on the defects on a comic, and little in shots. So when you have a defect, you mark it on, and you log a photo, and then you can get to it and see it really easily and clearly, and have different standards like that. So different specialists in those interest groups would give you that ability to make a cool kind of system for doing it, for running it.
I'm sure there is people in the NZCC group, right, that have that.
Well, there are people in both of our social circles in there, and what any successful business does is it leverages the talents of its teams, the best skills. It leverages what it has available for it. What entrepreneurs do is they do the same thing with their relationships, and so they get the most out of people. They use it, they leverage it, and it's really just doing that and getting the wheels turning on stuff. So when we talk about things like Patreon, there's surely ways of doing it better or differently, and taking away one little really negative thing is a really clear selling point that makes you better than them. And if you can provide the rest, then you potentially have that client base and that revenue from the other one.
I was like talking about that. I was thinking about Kickstarter today, right? Kickstarter is just about 30% as well, right? So I'm thinking, like, could I basically directly reach out to the customer and say, listen, right, can I sell you my product without having to go through Kickstarter, and have you come to me and say, we'll pledge this much money to you, and and when we reached our pledge, would you then pay out, and we'll send it back. Now the trust element is that we're basically out here, people expecting people to trust us. Whereas Patreon, like somewhere like Patreon and Kickstarter, already have security elements built in where you can't basically rip your people off. But I am well aware on Patreon that people have ripped people off and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Patreon is about supporting the individual in their creative process. So it's like back in the days when people had a house artist that they funded and gave like money to go spend in the shops and stuff, and they did sculptures in the garage. And so I mean, like, to be fair, like, I don't feel like a Patreon person could rip someone off. I mean, you're probably just naive.
Oh, no, the artist. Yeah,
if you bought into the
I
artist.
think
But I mean, the fact is,
I think it's a
Patreon.
Sarkisian who's ripped $80,000 of people saying they're going to deliver
But
games that never
patronage
delivered.
is like generously giving to someone to like
Yeah,
fund their
make
lifestyle.
something right.
And so you're not actually buying a product. You're not going, I'm in business with you. You own me. Like you're kind of you're the patron. And
Right.
so that's really the thing. It's really in your
But
hands if you're giving them the money.
there is that other element to it where we spec delivery for the patronage that I'm giving you.
But
So
then
if you're not going to
you might.
provide that, my thing is that every month you're going to deliver a new image, right? So I'm going to support you because you said you're going to deliver a new image. So I'm expecting that new image by this time.
How much are you paying for that new image yourself as an individual?
Depends on what they put on the price on there, right?
How much are you paying averagely?
I haven't. I think
you might do $1. You might do $3. You might do $5.
Yeah, but it's different levels, right? So if you get this thing or that thing or that thing. So if you're going in $1, then you're going to get a digital image. If you're going at about $10, you might get a physical copy of that image. Or if you're going to, say like $10 or something, you get a framed image, right?
You might get a nude.
Or you might get a nude, right? Whatever. So it all depends. All right, so it's a very they do these are all the different images.
I thought Patreon isn't so much about selling stuff though; it's about encouraging someone to go on a creative journey, isn't it?
It is both.
More or less.
I think it's gotten to a point where your patronage is now to a point, and because people are putting money to it, there's expectations there that you deliver on that.
In a way, don't you think that maybe with the Patreon, like they shouldn't? Because I'm pretty sure it shows the amount of funding that individual's got, right? They probably shouldn't show it. Because like if I was giving someone $5 and I liked who they were and I thought they did good work, like they did cool music or they did an image I liked and I thought that they're living a cool lifestyle and they want to really focus on art, and I gave them $5, if it didn't show that they were making $1,000 a month, I wouldn't give a fuck.
Well,
sorry,
but
I wouldn't care.
Some people hide it, right?
Well, they should. I would. Why
but
care?
That's the thing. So, but if you've got 159 people who's a patron, and if they, and you've got tiers of like up to $100 from $1 to $100.
Can't you stop at any time?
Of course you can. But the thing there is, there's expectation that someone's lying to you all along the way to say they're going to deliver. So you're halfway through a game delivery, right? And 2 years ago you were saying you're going to be releasing something. So people are going,
more like
I might as well continue because this guy is going to be, or this person, this female, male, is going to be delivering the game. But
is Patreon just like Kickstarter now? Because Kickstarter, you're expecting a product. You're helping them create something. You're helping them develop something.
Right.
You're paying for the box set to turn up once it's produced and published.
Right.
And generally you get it. I felt that Patreon was a different kind of take. I mean, they might update a picture or give you access to their portfolio gallery if you put this or that. But in fairness, I think I believe it started out as an individual kind of just supporting someone where they're a talented person and they don't have access to all the resources that some other people do that aren't so talented.
Well, the thing is, like, say if you because I'm in games, right? So say game releases come out on a certain day after the beta test is done. So they come out on the day. The patrons at that level get that on that day. On that, say like $20 will get on the day of the release.
Mm-hmm.
A week later, those will, let's say 2-3 days later, will be the ones on $10, or a week later, those on $5.
Okay.
Right. So you get like you get invites to like voice chats and all that stuff, discussions. You'll get such and such. There's so many different elements to it because you're paying so much money towards the patronage, right? So if you've got a guy who's paying you like $100 a week and you don't deliver a month, and you don't deliver when you say you're going to deliver, he's going to get a bit upset. Unless
couldn't you just kick him out?
No, you chat with him and you keep him saying, hey, look, it is coming. We're just going through. checking all the
But
stuff
but
out.
that's kind of the
Now,
point. I mean, if people can quit at any time or stop, like in a lot of ways,
there
like if
is
I was
that.
to support someone, it would be someone
Yeah,
that I really respected. So
yeah,
say, not that this happened, but say Todd McFarlane was in the gutter, but he was a fantastic artist. He's
yeah,
lost all his money, he's blown it all, and he
yeah,
wants a bit of support to still make Spawn. And I was like,
yeah.
well, Todd, I
Of
love your
course, yeah.
videos, I love what you
Because
do,
yeah,
but
of course you will.
I'd be
Yeah,
paying for his history, like what he's done previously, and I
right.
wouldn't care so much about his future. Like, because he'd be like, "Well,
Yeah,
I've got no money at the moment. I need an income. Could you guys help me out?" You know,
sure.
and I
There is
probably would
that
support
element,
him for that.
right? There is that element. But what if Todd is hiding his money away
Yeah, but
and he's
then,
pretending to be something,
but you
and
can
he's lying
decide.
to you
But I mean,
because you don't know him personally?
if you don't
No, no,
know that, then doesn't matter.
exactly. So if you don't know the person's situation, and they just keep saying, and you go, well, you've been saying the same thing for about a year, mate. All right,
But
then you start
if
getting
you think that, then you
frustrated.
could just stop, couldn't you?
That's what you expect. But I think at that point, people are just like, eh, hopefully he does it, hopefully he doesn't. And if we need a certain thing. And there are people who basically pull out. And I've seen that. Like I've had people go, okay, I've read a entire freaking, a letter of step-by-step things that which one it's almost like a grift that this developer has done halfway into the game and just done nothing for 2 years, and they say this is what he keeps saying, and you go, well, it doesn't make sense now because you said, well, you're going to do it. Now I'm doing this and that. Oh, he's going to the new games. Like, finish your old game first.
But
That's a
sometimes it's a little bit like you're a creative person. Like
I
as a creative
understand that.
person, I could respect that. Like I wanted to
Yeah.
make a space game that's a sci-fi like this. I made this concept art. I made the first level. I made this. I love it. People like the storyline. I'm
Mhm.
making it. It's got too hard for me, or I've lost interest because it's not gone interesting. It's gone boring,
Right.
and it's not quite what I picture.
There is
As a
that
creative
element as well.
person, I would
Yeah.
go, fuck, I'm making
Mhm.
a different game now. I'm
Right.
still the same creative
So
person. I'm getting more out of me because I actually believe in my new product, and
right.
or I'm excited to learn it. And
Right.
it's probably more important to be excited about what you're doing if you're trying to create
That is
something
true,
than
and there that
if it
has
became
happened as
really
well.
stale.
Yeah.
I could totally understand. I mean, they should probably explain it, and they probably do. But as a creative person, like
Right.
I'm just trying to make games for my get go. I've got this good idea. That good idea didn't work, but I still really want to make games. I'm making
Yeah.
a tank game now. Fine, like all good. Like
That's understandable, and people have done that. So what happens is the game goes on hold. The ones they've stopped working on, it goes on
yeah.
hold, and they go into the next one. So the problem then starts that nobody wants an unfinished series, right? Nobody ever wants that unfinished
Yeah,
series.
but I think you're
Now,
putting too much into the product. Don't you think? Like if you listen to
don't do the
yourself,
product.
like you're focusing on a product rather than someone's
Yeah,
creative journey. And I mean, yes,
yeah.
there's
Well, I mean,
charlatans, yes, there's bad people, there are people who take
yeah,
advantage of people. But I mean, you have a choice to stop any time. But like if you take it as a capacity of I'm encouraging someone to be creative, I'm trying to buy them a day off work so they can
well, there
focus
is a
on making
goodwill, right?
games.
Yeah.
And
You're
that's
talking about
cool.
the goodwill element of that
But the creative
because you want to support
aspect, I
them.
mean, is tangible, and like at times it changes. Like
Yeah,
sometimes you lose your love for something and you loved it for 10 years, and like I've been trying really hard to make it work.
yeah.
Stopping's probably the best thing to do, and like if you can stay on the horse and make something different, great. Like, and you
It's
could
kind of
stop
like
funding them.
it's like George R. Martin now. We'll never get a last book because he's enjoying all the fame and stuff, whatever. Because of course he deserves all that, but then of course yeah. But there is that element, and I understand that as a creative person. I mean, I rewrite stuff all the time, over and over again. It's
How
changed
many
every other week.
half-finished things have you got? You'd have to.
Um,
I've got tons.
I but they
Or
don't
well,
go out and
not
show.
you not
They
barely
don't go to
started
people.
things.
Yeah, no,
No, but they're
they
not
just
going. But like when
yeah,
you're a Patreon, when you're a creative person, you're letting them in your creative space. Like, I
right.
mean,
And then
you could
you
understand that
go.
you've got 10 products in your cupboard and you're focusing on one, but you've changed your mind and you want to focus on another.
Mhm.
I get that.
Yeah, I mean, then there is, but there's expectation that you should finish the first product because okay, you're going to move on to the next one because then, but what that
But
does
sure,
is
but you
create
know
the
how hard it
distrust.
is to create
Oh
something.
yeah,
You know how hard it is to see something through
right,
and see it to the end just because you
right.
want to. And then
Mhm.
you put it, you try and build it up. You're excited about it.
Yeah.
Getting that actually done to a level where it's like, wow, I did it fully, is actually really, really hard.
I think when it comes to game development, is because if you're getting like if people have put so much into it and you've delivered on so much, there's expectation that you should deliver or get more people to work with you on it.
But
Because
it
that's
seems
the thing
like
about games.
you just keep on focusing on the product, though, right?
Yeah,
Like if I was watching a game developer and he
yeah,
was making a game that was a real-time strategy and he was using Unity and he was making the sprites and things, okay, I kind of understand how to do that on a sprite and Photoshop, is
yeah,
concepting, is putting it in there, he's doing the code. He's figuring it out. He doesn't know how to do
yeah,
it very good. He's trying to develop his skills.
yep,
He's ambitious.
yep,
When he's programming new things and exciting things and sharing it with me, if that was the
yep.
case, I'd get more value out of learning. How did he do that? That was really cool. Like that guy went on a real challenging thing. He
There is that.
studied it, learning the
Yeah,
skills and watching someone develop their talent. And same thing with art is, like, because you could be learning, oh, well, he drew that from pencil art and he brought it through to this beautiful painted finish. That journey in between, if that's shared, is probably more valuable than the product.
But the thing there is, now that he's about to finish it, he just stops, or she stops, right? So either or. And so then there's a distrust whether with the next thing he or she does finishes or not either. And that's the element you don't want to create if you're a developer in this thing. And I'm even when I'm thinking, like, if somebody's gonna, if I'm gonna work with somebody and somebody decides, well, I'm gonna run off, well, halfway through go, oh, I'm thinking about doing another thing. It's like, cool. Are you gonna finish this one though? Because if you're not, I'm walking away right now.
That's creative people for you.
Yeah, I'm there. I have that mindset. As, I'm with that.
You get sidetracked. You get excited about different things at times.
Yes, but the thing is, then I'm not gonna be there working along that side person, because then,
I just find that like there's things where you're selling a product and you're going, this is what I'm making. I'm going to provide this to you at the end of it. Fair enough. I get you can be upset by that, but I just think that people aren't always presenting that, and then you focus on, oh, you're doing this, and so I'm going to get this product. But that's not really what you're paying for in some of those scenarios. You're helping them on their journey.
Developers who actually are so good because they've been able to understand and get other people to work with them. They've gotten to a point where people have said, we really like what you're doing. Here's more money. And you need to get more people involved to get this finished. And
yeah, but that's a business development then. So again, you've got a creative person. They've built a big project. They've put a lot of years into it. They're getting stressed, but they're proud of what they've done. And they get to a level where they should invest in other resources. They should outlay some of it. They've been a passion project. They're not business people. They've got X amount of income. Like that's probably not going to be their first course of action. That wasn't their goal. Maybe they wanted to be a solo developer. And maybe it's, they do realistically need to change, but like they're not necessarily going to get them themselves. I mean, it's very pragmatic business sense where it's like, okay, well, let's see if we can get in some more money. I'm going to start working with Joe Bob, and he's going to do half the work. But, like, I don't imagine that probably comes up like organically when they're in that position all the time.
Yeah. I think it's getting to a point where even with me, I'm like, I'm doing a lot of the work on this workload, so I think it's going to move away from being a volunteer basis to actually, I need some funds coming my way. I think because at the moment I've learned all I need to learn from it, but I want to see this game completed, right? Because I don't want this, even at that. So I'm in that mindset where, okay, I also want to see this game completed, even though I'm working on it on a volunteer basis. So I got to weigh up what my options are. But I mean, like, the cool thing is that now I know that nobody will ever know which game I worked on, because I'm working under a pseudonym. Nobody will ever know it was me. But they
probably tell us.
But developers in the gaming industry or in the independent circuit know who I am, and they know my skill level and so on. So I'll be able to, by the time this game finishes, I'll be able to say, I've already made a name for myself by the time this game finishes.
Another feather in the cap.